I want to begin with a statement that might sound completely wrong. I think the best rabbi is one you eventually need less. In other words, if I do my job well, you should need me less 5 years from now than you do today. That sounds maybe almost offensive. After all, don't congregations hire rabbis because they need rabbis? Shouldn't a great rabbi become indispensable? Shouldn't they be at the center of Jewish life? Actually, no. And I think we've misunderstood the job description for centuries. We often imagine the rabbi as the expert, the one with the answers, the keeper of tradition, the interpreter of Torah, the spiritual authority. But you know what? That's a surprisingly modern picture. A rabbi doesn't mean a holy person. It simply means my teacher. And every great teacher secretly wants one thing: to become unnecessary. Not irrelevant, unnecessary. The goal of a teacher is not dependence, it is independence. Think for a second about parenting. If your 40-year-old child still needs you to tie their shoes, something has gone terribly wrong. If every decision still depends on you, I hate to break it to you, you failed. Good parents slowly give away their authority, and good teachers slowly give away their knowledge. Good coaches slowly give away responsibility. So why should rabbis be different? I think somewhere along the way we accidentally created religious consumers. Religious consumers are people who ask, what does the rabbi think? What does the rabbi say? What prayer does the rabbi read? What is that blessing the rabbi uses? And those aren't bad questions, that they're incomplete ones. The better question is, what does Judaism ask of me? The Torah never says, find someone holy enough to do Judaism for you. It says you shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. Not one priest, not one rabbi, an entire people. Now that's revolutionary. Judaism was not designed around spectators. It was designed around participants. And here's another thought. I hope it's not uncomfortable. Sometimes we expect rabbis to fix problems that are actually congregational responsibilities. Rabbi, people don't know each other. Well, that's not primarily a rabbinic problem. Rabbis, young families don't feel connected. That will not be solved with another sermon. Oh, Rabbi, no one here volunteers. There is not a sermon that has ever magically produced volunteers. Community cannot be outsourced. You can't hire belonging. You cannot employ friendship. You cannot pay someone else's salary to create your own Jewish life. There is a famous teaching from Pirkei Avot that it's not your duty to finish the work, but neither are you free to desist from it. So I notice that it doesn't say, wait till your rabbi does the work, because the obligation belongs to every Jew. You know what would happen if we actually believed that? Imagine if every congregant thought, I am partly responsible for someone else's Jewish journey. I think that would change everything. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel famously said that Judaism declined not because people stopped believing, but because religion became dull, oppressive, insipid. I wonder if today he'd say something else. Perhaps Judaism declines whenever people become audiences instead of authors, consumers instead of creators, clients instead of covenant partners. Now, people often think about and often ask, what should our rabbi be? Do we want the rabbi to be charismatic, scholarly, funny, accessible, inspirational? Those are all nice qualities, but you know what? They're secondary. The better question is, what kind of congregation will allow a rabbi to succeed? Because even Moses couldn't lead people who refused to leave Egypt in their hearts. Even the greatest teacher cannot create curiosity, cannot manufacture generosity, cannot force courage. Leadership is always a partnership. And here's the hardest truth. Every congregation eventually becomes exactly what it rewards. If we reward performance, we'll get performers. If we reward certainty, we'll get certainty. If we reward avoiding conflict, then we'll avoid difficult conversations. But if we reward curiosity, humility, experimentation, compassion, then rabbis and congregations become freer to grow. Do you know what I think a rabbi should really do? I think a rabbi should disturb people lovingly, not every week, but often enough because Torah disturbs us. Abraham is told to leave everything familiar. Moses is dragged out of obscurity. Isaiah says worship without justice is empty. The prophets were not hired to make people feel comfortable. They were called to make people wake up. Maybe the opposite of faith isn't doubt. Maybe it's complacency. A synagogue should never become a place where everyone already knows exactly what they believe. It should be a laboratory, a place where questions are safer than slogans, where disagreement is holier than indifference, where changing your mind is considered spiritual growth rather than a weakness. A rabbi is not the CEO of certainty. A rabbi can be the curator of holy questions. Perhaps that is why the Talmud spends page after page preserving minority opinions that never became law. Think about that for a minute. Judaism canonized disagreement, not because every opinion was correct, but it was the wrestling that was sacred. Israel literally means one who wrestles with God. If our ancestors wrestled with God, surely we can wrestle with each other. Respectfully, compassionately, courageously. So let me return to where I began. If I do my job well as a rabbi, you won't simply admire my Judaism. You will be inspired to deepen your own. You won't wait for me to welcome the stranger. You'll be the one who notices the newcomer standing alone at the Kiddush. You won't depend on me to ask difficult questions. You'll be the one asking them around your own Shabbat table. You won't expect me to carry the congregation. You will discover that the congregation has always been carried by the covenant that we share and practice. Maybe that's the real measure of a great rabbi, not the number of sermons preached or books written or committees chaired, but whether ordinary Jews begin to believe something extraordinary. I don't just belong to this synagogue, I help to create it. Because in the end, the future of Judaism will never depend on finding extraordinary rabbis. It will depend on ordinary Jews discovering that they are capable of extraordinary holiness. And if that happens, well, the rabbi has succeeded, not by becoming the center of your Jewish life, but by helping everyone else realize that they already are. Kain Yehi Ratzu.